Hi everyone, welcome to OLM community meeting. Today is March 18th, uh, 2020, 2025. And I am actually started the recording. Let me share the screen. Does anyone know who is using the fireflies.ai note taker? Looks like it's from Ivan. Okay. So going to share my screen. Can you all see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So for last week we had few RFCs and briefs. I don't know which one is supposed to, well, this is 25. Anything which dates actually in future we can actually copy so that people just as a reminder for people to kind of review this. So I copied these briefs and RFCs. Please review them. And there are no discussion topics. One of the thing I wanted to encourage folks to do some demos here. I know we have been doing a lot of stuff. We are merging a lot of features into the code. So even if you have a recorded demo from the past or anything, if you want to just like show them and do a voiceover, I can do live demo. That would be great. Um, we personally, let's say I'm working on the kubectl operator stuff. Once things are done, I would be definitely like demoing it here just to give you an idea about what's going on there. So if you have any topics which you can demo, please add it to the next meeting, and we can do some demos of what stuff we have done from like anything which got merged after the last release. And also because we have never did demo much, so probably if you have anything else also should be fine, right? Any comments, any feedback on that? Okay. Move to the next one, which is the roadmap check-in. We have we have three topics. So this one is in review.
That one should be done, I think, right, Jordan?
So we had it in needs docs.
Right. And then we merged both of the PRs. So one that had the actual docs and I think the demo PR.
And we're still missing one piece because there's one doc. The name of it eludes me right now, but in the one that is this, yeah, this is the guy here. Fetching catalog contents was not part of the updates that in the PRs that either you or I delivered. So that's still needed, but it's a very small part. However, I think the overall status of this should still be um, need stocks, right? I didn't remember moving it, I guess is where I'm going with this.
Is this the one which are you able to see my screen? Maybe not. I'm
Yes, we
actually,
can. Yes.
I'm actually showing the
Right, you're showing the individual work item,
yeah, the docs update catalog component internal web API
right?
docs demos, that page, right?
And if you pop up to 1570, which is where it says listed in, that's the epic there. And that's the one I was saying should have been in um, needs docs. Can you scroll down and see if maybe I moved it and I've forgotten subsequently? Anik, you moved it.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I had the doc that was ready for review. And then that merged too.
So tell me, help us understand. So this one, let's talk about one by one. So 1783, is this still needs to be done or is it already merged? The
So
fixed
we had
case.
one PR that addressed the first bullet point. The second bullet point was not part of that PR.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, got it.
So
Yeah,
we just need a quick PR. I noticed it yesterday, but I didn't have any
that's
bandwidth to try to
that's fine.
address it.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm just
So
trying
that
to make sure that we have the right information here.
so that just means that once we record a demo, create a PR that has that demo updated in catalog D, and then get that merged, then this epic should be done, right?
No. It's not the demo
This
that's
this is
missing.
the this is the pieces
It's the
missing.
line 60 and fetching catalog contents or similar. So and there may be some additional discussion, right? Because in the scope of your PR, we decided that we would make, since the Meta's API is a net new service, that we would move all contributions into docs draft instead of making incremental updates to existing docs. So I think we need to take a look at this second item here and figure out whether we're going to do that. When I initially wrote this, I was thinking that we would just update the fetching catalog contents doc to also display how we were handling the Metas query or the Metas API in addition to the all APIs. So it looked like
Yeah.
a really quick thing.
Yeah, I think we discussed this a little bit in Slack, and I'm not sure if you got a chance to catch this, but it's probably a good point to bring it up right now. Also, maybe we probably need to figure out or have a cadence for how we document our feature gated stuff because looks like we're going to do this a lot. The way that I am interested in making sure that this catalog D docs don't become the vessel for which we have this discussion because then it keeps going on and then this epic, even though the work is done, we keep dragging this on and keeping it open because we're having some other discussion. But we do need a cadence of how we document feature gated stuff. For now, uh, FYI, if you're not aware, the way that I close that PR, the document PR is I just put everything in the drafts folder, which is what Jordan was referring to. Um, and that's also not the best solution because I just copied the document that mentions the all endpoint to the drafts folder and then changed those all endpoints to the metas endpoint. But then that creates a danger of the dogs being out of sync and not making sense over time. Um, so we do need to figure out something for how do we document feature gate, but I would hope that we don't do it through this. We I would hope that we just do what was stated initially in these issues and tickets, which is documented, get it in somewhere, and then create a follow-up issue to discuss this.
Yeah, so two separate issues here for clarity here, right? So in chasing status of this current epic, ready for review is as fine as anything else right now. We still do have one gap that needs to be addressed in an additional PR. And separately, we as a group need to agree on our mechanism for debuting the documentation, like Anik was saying, for that's wholly optional behind a feature gate, including the maturation of that and presumably the eventual merging of the docs drafts area into our formal docs.
So when you say you want to introduce docs behind a feature gate, um, I mean, the only way I can think of is basically mentioning that in the documentation, saying this is basically a feature gate documentation, like um, you have to enable this feature gate, then only this document is like some providing some information that this documentation is only for a feature which is under behind a feature gate, right? How do you guys have anything else in your mind?
So we discussed this a little bit. I was discussing this a little bit with Joe in the PR that I was introducing. It gets a little messy. So essentially, because this is not a net new feature, or it is a net new feature, but there exists another feature that also gives you the same results. So the documents it's basically, for example, there are catalogs installed in the cluster. I want to see what packages are available. That query, the docs right now mentions how to do that, how a user can do that with the all endpoint. If the feature gate is enabled, the metas endpoint feature gate, then we suggest do not use the all endpoint. Here's how you can use the metas endpoint because it's much more cleaner and much more efficient. So the way that we started getting into the back and forth is, okay, how do we mention this? Hey, here's how to do it in the all endpoint if the feature gate is not available. But then if the feature gate is on, then here's how to do it with the metas endpoint, and it gets a little messy. So we just decided, all right, let's put this in the drafts folder.
I think what I would suggest that we try to get towards is like the official docs only ever talk about our what we recommend from the set of feature gates that are GA. So like in the procedures and API reference and like all the like walkthroughs, tutorials, all that stuff should only ever be about stuff that's GA. Separately, I think it makes sense to have like another page maybe that says, here's all our feature gates. And here's where they are in their life cycle, and here's what each of them does. And then like on that page, then you can say, here's the catalog D metas feature gate. If this is enabled, here's what you get out of it. And then only when that feature goes GA, then would we go and change the sort of the pristine docs to say, don't use, we would take out all, and we'd probably say, just here's how to query catalog metadata. It's the metas endpoint, and here's the various ways that you can do it.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Much more cleaner. Essentially, what you're saying, Joe, is when we, for example, create that action item or document or track the GA of a feature, we also have a document piece of it.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that is probably the easiest solution and the most cleanest solution.
In terms of actually contributing all the docs, I think what I would probably say is everything starts out in drafts. Like even if it's a tech preview or even if it's a alpha or beta feature, let's put all of the docs in drafts. Then we can have sort of the docs process do its thing where we say, okay, there's a new draft for this alpha feature. Let's get together and we'll pull Michael in, and Michael will say, here's how we like to organize, docs for the feature, and let's get the wording such that it's consistent for the feature gate page and blah blah blah. Right. So like even if it's a feature gate, I would say like let's just put everything starting out always in drafts, no matter what it is. And if we want to get it further along, then we get it in drafts and then we go about getting it further along.
Yeah, and that might mean that we have a little bit of a merge conflict between the drafts and what's going on in the main branch. But I think that's okay as long as it's words at the end of the day, as long as things are documented. The merging will just mean read and make sense of what's there in the draft and then bring it in cleanly to the main, which should be fine.
I
Ankit,
mean, it's all on the main branch.
I did not get why the merge conflict will arise.
Well, oh, so I mean, sorry, maybe wrong terminologies to use. I mean, there are documents in the draft which are talking about, for example, the new feature gate. However, the main documents, not the main branch, the main documents are talking about the all endpoint. So when we GA the feature gate, we Joe is essentially suggesting that we create that document issue or documentation issue that says change the document in the main documents to talk about the newly G8 feature.
I see what you're getting at. So, like, I think in that situation, I would probably say, like, we probably don't need a new draft of an existing main document. We probably would say, all right, we've already got the feature gate documented in the feature gates page because we did that as part of the feature gate development. Now we want to promote that to GA rather than write a new doc. Like we've already got the docs written, it's in the feature gate description. Let's just go have the conversation with Michael to go and just update the main documentation. I don't know that we would need to rewrite it and have the weirdness with, well, we're duplicating a lot of what's already there, but we're rewriting. Like, I think we could probably avoid that.
Okay. I think that makes sense, which means that I should go back to the PR that I did where I copied from the main thing into the drafts folder and then changed. Instead of having all of that written down, I just have like Spark notes that can be used by Michael or somebody.
Yeah, to
Anik,
go and update the various
so
places.
Joe, Anik, hold. Okay, I have a question before we go further. So, Joe, the way you suggested, the way I visualized is like, we have different section in the documentation. Here we can actually create a section, or yeah, we probably create a section saying
I would say we'd have a
documentation.
new section called feature gates.
Exactly, that's what I thought. So we have a new section saying these are the documentation which are behind feature kit, which is very clear to users that these are not GA features. And then when we do GA, just basically move hypothetically, let's say the upgrade support, right? Hypothetically is behind just below the feature gated features. We just move it to wherever it's supposed to go, and that's the GA thing, right? Once we
It,
decide,
it's
yeah,
going to really depend on what the feature gate is and what it does. In Onyx case, it's not moving anything. It's really, oh, these other existing concepts and APIs and things have changed. So let's go and find the existing docs about that stuff and update it to say that here's this new feature
right,
that we suggest you
right,
use.
yeah,
So
true.
for that, what I would suggest is like maybe we could even go further and say like on the feature gate, uh, like on the FeatureGate doc itself, maybe we could say like this impacts the following other pages somehow, like as metadata, maybe, where then like it would be easier then for anybody to see like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go rewrite docs. I need to remember to go and update these like 4 or 5 places because this has impacts there.
Yeah, that is going to be tricky. But I think we can manage it. That's why the default, when I talked about this initially, I was like, okay, can you mention in the docs these are the parts which are under feature kit or something? Because some docs can have impacts on multiple docs, right?
Exactly. And I think we need to be really careful. This is partially why we want to have this draft set up. We need to be really careful that like when we have a new thing, we go and update all the right places and we don't miss anything. In fact, like just yesterday, Chris was asking me like, "Hey, is this OLM book doc about how OLM handles dependencies the right thing?" And it's like, no, like that hasn't been updated in 6 years. Like, don't read that, please. And I had to point him to some other places that were slightly less outdated, but still outdated. So my goal here is that like when someone looks at our docs, like they are up to date with the latest stuff.
Yeah, I think probably it's a good point now to go back to reasons why we want to have all like the feature gated documentations also, right? I mean, unless we don't publish it here, we just will find it hard to find those documentation. So we have to publish it somehow, but then also not pollute the GA doc. So that's going to be tricky, but I think let's take
I think
it
it's
case by
fine.
yeah, case by
Kubernetes has
case.
a FeatureGate page that basically does what I was suggesting that we do. So it's literally just a list of the FeatureGate names with a description, like a section for each FeatureGate that says when this is on, here's what happens. I think that's probably all we really need for describing the non-GA features.
Okay, I think I understand what needs to be done. I can go and open up a PR and then ping in the channel and then feel free when the PR comes up to say that no, 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 you misunderstood. This is what needs to be done. But I can do that. And then Ankita, you have your hand up for a while. I apologize.
No, I just wanted to ask the reason behind having the drafts is so that there's a separate place that we can look at what needs to be added when the feature finally goes GA. Like so that we don't have to keep a PR open that long until it's ready to make it in, right?
That's not the only reason. I mean, that's not the actual reason. You know initial reason we thought drafts is fine because sometimes it's hard to create a doc which is like really ready for prime time. So in that case, what happens is rather than putting a lot of pressure on folks, it's like if you know you need to write a doc and put it in draft, and then probably because draft usually doesn't have a high bar as compared to the published docs. So then you go get it reviewed in the sense once it's merged, um, we can take another stab at it to basically move it from draft to wherever it should go. So that basically it's a two-step process versus one step, but it makes it easier for folks to kind of contribute initial documentation without thinking, whether this is good enough for the GA documentation or not, or published documentation or not.
It's
So
also like we as developers are like have a certain style of writing about the technical details of a thing. So we can contribute and write what we think is the best thing to put in a draft. But then our user-facing docs, like if we have folks in the community that are more sort of technical writers or documentation focused, like it's then their ability to say, okay, let me see what all of the engineers have written and use like the same style and the same voice and the same sort of, um, make it look very consistent and very polished. Whereas like as engineers, we're not as focused on the polish. We're like, here's a new feature, here's how it works, moving on to the next feature. So the drafts is really a way for us to sort of have this two-step process like Lala was talking about, where it's like we put our technical docs in drafts, and then folks in the community that are more attuned to style can take it from there and put it in the right spots.
So it's more of a signal that we are, at least the technical side of the docs is done and it's ready for polish.
Yeah,
yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it can happen also, like if you're confident enough, somebody is confident enough, when this documentation is purely ready for user facing, like it's completely ready to publish, so you can directly put it in respective places. That's fine.
I think before we do that, what I would really like us to have the contributor ladder set up such that Michael could be an approver on the main docs.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
like only Michael and maybe others that are like trusted sort of technical writers would be able to get stuff directly merged in.
With the drafts folder being the only exception for that.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Then we would put like more approvers on the drafts folder because then, engineers could approve stuff going into there.
Yeah, that makes sense because if you give that leeway that Lala you were talking about, which is if you're confident, then, and I'm winking over here, then everything that I deliver will be okay. I'm confident we can put that. But if there's a process in place,
Exactly. Yeah. Like we're all confident, right? That's,
right,
we're good engineers,
right,
but
yeah.
we don't have Michael's brain or another technical writer brain.
There is always, one of the things, I mean, I have learned over the period of years that there are multiple ways to do a certain thing. So nothing is wrong. So as long as whatever works for this set of contributors or the team, I think that's the right way to do it. There is various ways to do certain things. For example, you know that things evolve. Nothing is perfect. Nothing is perfect from the beginning. So are you have a mindset of evolution where you want to put everything in published documentation, see people who care about documentation become the maintainer of documentation. Many teams doesn't have dedicated, like Michael, we have somebody, many people don't have that. So it's always depends on what we want to do, whatever works for us. So if this is what something everybody thinks is the right model, which I think is really good model, so sure, let's use it and move forward.
We're discussing it.
I'll have a PR up.
So since we're fully in the bike shed on this topic here, one question I wanted to ask about the permissions is that we're talking about a different permission set for our formal docs versus our draft docs, which is fine in theory, but we also have some automated processes that update the docs based on code related changes. And I'm wondering if we're going to find ourselves on the wrong end of the stick if we
That
protect docs so that engineers don't have merge rights.
I think as long as it's organized such that the auto-generated docs are in a separate folder, then we can make sure that engineers have approved rights still in the right spots.
Okay, all of this is fairly theoretical to me because I'm not sure if, like, we've been talking about adopting Prow and Tide more specifically
Yeah.
to implement our contributor ladder. And I haven't messed with it in detail to understand the subfolder specific permissions that we're able to set. So this may be a totally trivial thing. I don't know.
It's you can basically just put owners and owners alias files at every level of the directory hierarchy, and those dictate permissions at that level and lower. So if you put someone at the root as an approver, then they can approve everywhere. If you put someone as a, only in docs in one folder, then they have just permission in that subfolder in its tree. So I think we
Gotcha.
can do what we need to do. We'll just have to be careful, I think, with putting reviewers and approvers in the root owners file, because then they would have approval authority in the separate docs. So we'll just have to be
Yeah, I
careful.
think it's going to take a level of deliberation that we're only going to really appreciate when we have some PRs to look at.
Yep, I agree.
Can I, should we move this to needs docs column? The
Nope,
LP
we should
column?
leave this one fine where it is.
Okay,
We'll get up a PR to cover the gap. It'll complete review and then we'll go done on it.
okay, cool. Thanks, Jordan. Moving to the implementing column, we have kubectl operator plugin updates for operator controller and catalog D, which is in progress. Yeah, so few things already got merged, few things in progress. And the next one is permission validation pre-flight check. Uh,
Yeah, key PR on that is in review currently.
is this Brett? Is this Epic, right? This is Epic. Yeah. Have you all like broken it down into individual issues or?
Yeah, we did. Just need to make sure that the JIRA is mapped back to this.
Yeah, Jira is mostly downstream, so
Yeah, I know.
okay.
Yeah, I'll make sure that we have the issues mapped to the JIRAs.
Thank you.
If we don't, I think we might, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I thought there
I thought
was
we did.
some
I thought we
flag.
did, but I'll look again.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we did, but that's fine. Move to the next one, which is
Lala,
go ahead.
sorry to interrupt you. Before you move on to the next one, about the kubectl operator plugin, I was interested in because I saw some tickets that will consume catalog D output, and especially with the new feature gate available, it sounds like it's a good idea to interface with whoever picks up that issue. Um, I was hoping that I could pick up that issue, but things seem to keep falling in my plate before I can get to that.
After us taking a look at that as of now, you can coordinate with him if that works.
Arthur? Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Ankita.
Yeah, Ankita is our lead on that, so you can talk to Ankita about kubectl operator stuff.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
So the next one is support registry v1 bundle installation and single namespace and own namespace install modes. So I think this is also in progress. Moving to
A question before you move on from there.
Yeah.
That one also is flagged with triage needs info, but it's in implementing.
Yeah, we should remove that. That was an old
Okay, cool.
label. We should remove this.
I was
Sorry.
like, if somebody threw that flag on in the middle of implementation, we really ought to have a discussion with the team working it so we can understand what's going on. But if that's an error, cool.
Right. No, this is error. Definitely. I think we added it like October 22, like October 22nd October to the 2024, and we did not remove it. So sorry about
Okay,
that.
sensible. Thanks.
And then in the design column, we have performance and scale, which also I think because we probably have RFC now, right? On this.
Yeah, I think we pretty much reached a consensus last week on like our first steps. I'm distilling that right now into an RFC, and then should be able to publish that today or tomorrow, along with issues.
Yeah. So I think that would be great, Daniel. So if you do not have access to edit these descriptions, then I would say that let's append this description, not remove everything, but just append it like latest update. And then also if you have a RFC, let's put a link here. And then once we put the RFC, we can remove this triage and need information also labeled from here.
Awesome. Yeah, will do.
Awesome. Thank you. The next one is construction parameters passed through templating engine. And we also, I think Nico already have RFC for this, right? Or at least he's working on RFC. That's what I believe. So Nico, if you're listening to this, please, once you have the documentation, you can like append again, or at least update the description to reflect the current thought process we have for this. And then you can remove this triage and this information label from this one. Cool. These are the next set of epics we have. Help admins determine necessary permissions for bundle lifecycling. Support registry view on bundles that include CSVs with spec webhook definitions. Add retail limits and new reason to progressing status condition. And support direct bundle installation. So a few more things in progress. So that's how it looks like. Anything else before I move to the next topic? Okay. So it looks like there are no discussion topics yet. So I think that's it. That's it we have for today's meeting. And please, I'll create the next meeting agenda, and yeah, it's open for folks who wants to host this voluntary meeting next time. Feel free to add your name to the host, and then you can moderate the meeting. So that's mostly for today. Anything else? I'm going to unshare my stop the recording, and then thanks everyone. I'm going to stop the recording now.